Just make sure the audio is coming through before we get started. Where is this? Is it?
It looks like we're live right now.
It says it's waiting. It does show we're live,
but it's not like live on YouTube. It is now. Well, no.
You see it?
That's an ad. So yeah.
Oh, that's an ad.
YouTube got me with an ad.
Mine is still waiting. Oh yeah, you see it? Cool.
We're on now. So yeah.
Why
hey guys.
Mine not showing? Let me just make sure this is coming through on mine, and then we'll get started.
Sounds like a plan.
Wait, but you do see it. Okay, yeah, mine's working. Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, welcome, Beju. It's nice to have you in DC.
Thanks for hosting me. Yeah. Lovely brunch, by the way.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the brunch today, and thank you for inviting me to your place.
Yeah. So this is like I think you said it was like been 10 years since you've been to DC, right?
I would say it's been a while. I remember being in DC like as a pharmacy student on rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say I had a bit of an experience on rotation, but just in general with DC, it was a time when I didn't really have much money. So yeah, on the student salary, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, well, I guess like for the audience out there, since some folks might not know this is being streamed to Facebook, YouTube, and then like we might have some people from LinkedIn and Twitter. So Beju is one of the co-founders with me in the Pharmacy Informatics Academy. He's also an informatics pharmacist. And yeah, so we work together in some capacities.
I love it. Yeah.
Any introductions that you can give to the audience out there, Beju?
I saw Ryan in the chat. So
right.
Great to see like colleagues of ours in this space as well. Like, thanks, Ryan. I think.
How do you know Ryan, by the way? I'm sorry, I don't know.
So actually, we're connected on LinkedIn, but we I've admired a lot of his work on drug diversion and sort of this medication intelligence kind of stuff that he's doing out there for the community. But I will say, I am certainly a pharmacist first, pharmacist at heart. But I've gone through a tremendous kind of, I guess, growth in my career. So I actually started out in the IT realm. I was studying to be a computer scientist. So I did some more technical kind of developer types of roles in the past. And then, I've done a ton of different other odd kind of jobs as well in between. Yeah. And then I found my way into this professional kind of community where it's really served me well, financially as well as professionally speaking. So, now it's kind of, I think it's a place where I still continue to seek growth and different opportunities in my career. But I also think about like, where do I actually want to go in terms of how I want to live, and the freedom to do what I want to do for my next decade or two. So I'd love to kind of talk a little bit more about that in this kind of session.
I feel like I'm being interviewed right now.
Well, no, I appreciate you inviting me to conversation, because I really think that's what it is ultimately is having a conversation with folks who are like-minded, who can talk about very diverse things that you can learn from, and trying to implement those, apply those to your lives as well. We may have different contexts of where we come from, but essentially I'm continuing to learn, whether it's in pharmacy, whether it's in IT, whether it's in innovation, whether it's in personal finance, all of these things. And so just talking to you actually earlier on in our brunch, like talking to you and David, another colleague of ours, I learned a lot. We were talking about real estate.
Oh, yeah. About the whole investing and personal finance stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess that's how this conversation got started. I know I'm personally interested in the FIRE movement. I learned about it, I think a couple of years ago now. And then when did you actually hear about the FIRE movement?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I actually came across it through the White Coat Investor. So that was my first kind of introduction.
A couple years ago or more recently?
This was actually, I would say, probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
And so it was kind of midway into my career. I was out in practice probably about 4 or 5 years already.
Okay.
And so I came across this, and it really sort of really changed things for me.
Break it down for me here. So you heard about it from White Coat Investor.
Yeah.
what drew you into the FIRE movement?
I think the biggest thing that resonated for me was the fact that I had a plan. Because up until then, and you'll probably hear this on, other kind of podcasts as well, like, people, how do they come into this? A lot of them, from what I can tell, is they don't really have a good game plan, and that adds that sort of additional stress to your lives. And so, for me, it was a moment where I found out, okay, there's something I can do to kind of operationalize it, to kind of look at what are these goals that I want out of my career as well as out of my life, and what I really want to kind of build out of that. But how do I make sense of it financially, in terms of getting an overall financial picture of my strategy that I want to build. And so up until then, I didn't really have a plan. I had things like vehicles I can invest in my Roth IRA. Well, let me do that. I've got this 401k that employer matches a certain amount. I can do that. It was very piecemeal.
Okay.
And so for me, it was more of I need to now look at it more of a system-based kind of perspective.
What was the FIRE movement your first introduction to retirement planning in general then? It sounds like I get the impression that you weren't thinking about retirement planning.
That's a good point.
Until you found the FIRE movement, where you started to think about that?
You hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
Okay.
It was really.
So I don't think I've always had a retirement plan, but I've always thought I'd retire at age 65. Was there anything else about the FIRE movement that drew you into it?
So it's actually interesting, because I always used to think, and I still think I'm never going to retire. I've always had that mindset of I've always wanted to kind of work, regardless of whatever it is I do. I want to stay kind of up to date. I want to stay in the game. I want to find personal fulfillment in work. But I think what happened when I intersected with the white coat investor was, one thing was certainly, I have a plan. And then the second thing was more of I can still do the work. I can still not have to retire completely. I can still work, but it's the type of work I can choose to do is what mattered most. And so if it's me creating a company, if it's me creating, I don't know, other, a YouTube
passion
channel,
projects,
I don't know, it's
so more financial independence than the retire early part.
So I think the financial independence was the key there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was basically the freedom to allow you to do any pursuit you want to do.
Yes.
Beyond your 1 or 2 or whatever employees. Which is, I just want to say, I love what I do right now. Let me put that in there. I love the folks I work with, the company I work for, the mission, around that. It's tremendous. But, at some point, and, being pragmatic, at some point in life, maybe it's 10 years, decade or 2 down the road, I probably want to do something else.
Okay.
Because I've always had that. It's sort of, I have always tried to reinvent myself in terms of professional career and growth, because I just found so much joy in that. And so, I feel like, why not? Why not stop? Why stop doing that if it brings me so much joy? Why stop doing that? So
I agree. As a human, we spend a lot of our life, let's say rough average 33% of our life working. So if we're working, we should at least spend that time doing work we enjoy. I think that's what resonated with me. It's
it's a good way to say it. Yeah.
Getting a financial independence and then focusing on the work that you're truly passionate about. And like you, I also love my job, but there's other things I want to explore as well, in addition to that.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would stop working either. Now, a lot of people in the FIRE movement talk about a FIRE number and then different types of FIRE. Do you personally have a FIRE number? And then is there a specific type of FIRE you're going for?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of nuances around that question. Sure, right? It's to paint a broad,
Let's ask this question. Do you have a goal with the FIRE movement? What does that end goal look like? How about that?
Yeah. So kind of looking at what I would like at the end of the day in terms of income needed to have a roof over my head, to have food on my table, to have basically the essentials.
Yes.
I kind of looked at that figure. I kind of, almost like reverse engineered what I would need, right, to get to that annual sort of income rate. And, I think, to be honest, I came up with, if I remember this correctly, my other half and myself came up with the 1.5 million, right? But of course, that comes with the nuances that everyone has, and so not a lot of folks would have. In our case, we have one of us has a pension after
That's nice.
so after a certain period of time. I can't remember exact years, but that definitely adds to the equation, right? So that's a big one. And then also having some other investments outside of the typical investments people have. Maybe there's inheritance, maybe there's stock options, maybe there's like other kinds of things that you could add that could really add on to that. And so I would say that's kind of the general number. And then also just think about the context of the type of lifestyle you want at the end of it. I talked a little bit about earlier on with you. I talked about how I live a very minimalistic lifestyle. And so like when I graduated from school, technically I don't think I've really added a lot more on to my needs financially than
That's
that.
good.
And so
lifestyle inflation.
Yeah. So it's really been that kind of mantra of like, if I can continue that, which I do, I still think I will continue. I think that will equate to like, I don't need a number or too high of a number either.
And what does that actually trickle down into? Because usually people calculate their FIRE number by multiplying their expenses times 25. What expense do you expect to pay every year? Like what's that number look like for you?
That's a good question. Yeah. So
and it's you and your other half, not just you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So for us, I would say it's the one thing I think probably all kind of guarantees like healthcare expenses are probably going to increase as we get older, aging. So definitely that's part of the bigger picture there. But then also I would definitely say like traveling is probably the experiences in life. Having more experiences.
Did you factor all this into your number?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Absolutely. So and I guess there's benefits of travel for me personally. Again, going back to nuances, like I have family all over the world.
Oh, nice.
And so like having high expenses for traveling is not real. I mean, besides airfare, I would say probably everything else is pretty much
covered,
I would say. So these are kind of things that, like, again, you have to look at your own context and your own nuances to kind of realize. But that's something I factored in. So we have a lot of comments though. So
yeah, Tony says spark joy.
I love it. That's
really important, right?
Exactly.
I think that's at the heart of the FIRE movement. Yeah. It's about being able to do those things that spark joy, right?
Yeah.
Ken says FIRE, sign me up. And then Judy, that's Judy. She started a YouTube. It's pretty cool. Judy she's a lawyer. She started a YouTube channel during the pandemic, and she's grown quite a bit. She's from North Carolina.
Oh wow, that's pretty close to South Carolina, which is where I'm at. So that's awesome. I look forward to checking it out. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. So we have your FIRE number and stuff. How far along would you say you're in your journey? Like, so you found out about it 5 to 6 years ago.
Yeah.
You have kind of a goal here.
Yeah.
How far along would you say you are towards that goal?
So if I can count my like kind of 20 Bitcoins that I invested in like 2000.
You have 20 Bitcoins?
If I counted that, I'd be done. Like,
wait, what do you mean if you counted it? Do you not have it anymore?
I lost all my Bitcoins.
You lost the Bitcoins? You had 20 Bitcoins?
This is true. This is like so all right.
How much is 20 Bitcoins worth?
I am not gonna lie, like the Bitcoins were that I bought in 2011, if I remember correctly.
600,000.
Yeah, if I had them now, like that would be great. But you know what?
Man. That hurts.
it hurts you, right? It hurts you. But it actually, to be honest, like it doesn't hurt me.
Okay, that's good.
Because like end of the day, like it goes back to your so what was it, the phrase you told me at the cafe earlier today?
Oh yeah, I was mentioning the Beju. Maybe we'll probably cover this later in terms of like our strategies to get to FIRE. And Beju was saying he wishes he invested earlier.
Yeah.
And then the phrase I always like to think about, it's like from a Chinese proverb. The best time to start was like back then, like a couple years ago, but the next best time to start is now.
Yeah.
You know, trying to like not focus as much on the past and focusing on the present. But
exactly.
So that's
so
think about it.
So my $20 was just $20 to me, to be honest. That's kind of how I would think about it. But I will say, like, if you were to buy Bitcoin, don't keep it in a Bitcoin wallet, especially one that was like ransacked and like I don't know what happened to the money. So anyway, there's that. But I'm kind of you know, I'm more along the perspective of I'm not really into cryptocurrency. I actually don't.
You don't have any crypto right now?
I don't have any crypto. I'm not really sure if I have a strong belief in it. That's kind of, I don't know. Maybe
you don't believe in Dogecoin?
Well, I guess that's more like.
Didn't you buy some Dogecoin?
I might have, but, but I kind of I feel like I don't know if I want to. I don't feel serious about it.
Okay, so that's not a big part of your strategy towards getting to FIRE.
No.
But you might dabble in some crypto, but it's not a big.
I would say I dabble in individual stocks. I have a few biotech stocks.
Okay, we'll jump into that.
But yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are always interested in the investment aspects and like how you're getting there. Okay, so maybe back to the how far along. Like how far along would you say you are in your journey though? So
like
a rough estimate. Are you like 50% of the way there?
I feel like I dodged that question. You come back to it.
Oh, okay. No, let's avoid the question. Let's move on. If you don't,
it's cool. Actually, no, I am. I would probably say I'm pretty much
there.
No, I would say probably about 3/4 of the way there.
Nice.
So I mean,
congrats.
If I so let's put it this way. If I was to geohack, which totally could do, could probably be there. But the deal is like, and I think we went into the nuances of that. Like, there's a whole lot of pros and cons with geohacking, right? And I think healthcare, again, going back to healthcare, is like number one for me and for my other half. And we have to make sure we have a good game plan for good quality healthcare when we age. So yeah.
Especially in the United States.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people I see about the FIRE movement talk about healthcare costs not being as significant, but they're not from the United States. Yeah. The United States has a significant cost in terms of healthcare, but other places has more socialized healthcare. So people moving to like Portugal, you know, or anywhere in Europe or Canada has more socialized healthcare where it's not as big of a factor. But we definitely have to factor in here, which is why I think barista FIRE exists, where people would work. I mean, barista isn't necessarily just for Starbucks, you know, but in general, working somewhere to get those healthcare benefits.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a smart way to go to subsidize some of your healthcare costs in the States.
Is that same as lean FIRE? Or?
No, I think so. Lean FIRE, I think, was like the bare minimum. It's like to cover your bare bone expenses. You're very frugal, $40,000 a year expenses, and that's it. You're not traveling.
But you work.
You don't have to work.
Like that's the thing.
Yeah. But barista FIRE is working like part-time for the healthcare benefit. Yeah. So the classic example is working at Starbucks, where you get health insurance. You know, so you work part-time. And I would consider that because I like coffee. I'm sure you do too.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, like barista living sounds pretty appealing.
So it's just an idea, but you can probably work for other companies that give you that healthcare benefit too. But okay, cool. Now this is the more fun kind of conversation, because I think everyone's a little different, is like, what is your strategy towards getting to FIRE? You know, you were kind of talking about it earlier, but what types of vehicles or investments, or like how are you building your wealth to get there?
I mean, I'm a simple, to be honest, I'm pretty simple with that, which is I'm not doing real estate. I'm not really doing individual stocks like to such a great extent. I'm not doing crypto like at all.
Okay. What's your predominant method?
Yeah, so like I'm largely just putting my money into the S&P 500, you know, and just kind of riding that wave. But it also, of course, like the 401ks, the Roth IRA, like kind of 457s.
Oh, so you're
kind of employer based.
So let's dive into that.
Yeah.
So investments,
Yeah.
S&P 500 sound like your main vehicle towards FIRE. Are most of it in tax advantage accounts or taxable accounts? It sounded like it was more tax advantage because you're talking about 401k, 457s.
I guess like.
And the reason why I bring this up is because this is something that I don't know myself either. Because the idea, the FIRE movement is retire early.
Right.
Most retirement vehicles, you can't withdraw the money until you're 59 and a half.
Right.
So if your strategy was to use tax advantage accounts, you can't really pull that money out without like a penalty.
Right.
So the question is, like, when people are doing this FIRE movement, like, how are they balancing that? Like, are they using more taxable accounts or tax advantage accounts?
Yeah, I would say like largely my portfolio is in going towards accounts after being taxed on the investment. So
the taxable accounts.
So taxable accounts. Okay, that's I was trying to like.
Or brokerage accounts.
That's kind of exactly. Yeah, I think I got confused with like the terminology, but yeah.
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry.
That's
being a little too technical.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I guess being sort of like in a higher income bracket, like it kind of also is good to. And for us, it was like important to make sure that our money was going to some of these investment vehicles. So we would try to get some benefit from that. But at the same time, it's like, I honestly, like, I leave a majority of the actual investing to my other half.
Really?
So I will say like
that's interesting.
My knowledge is of the actual investments that we have, like our portfolio is probably a lot lower than hers, but at the same time, it's I kind of know the overall strategy. It's just the kind of when you kind of go into the details like you just did.
Oh, too much.
Like it's a little bit harder for me to kind of articulate. So that's kind of where I'm having a bit of a tough time with that. But
I'll tell you some things in my mind then, and I'll try to like use less technical jargon.
Okay.
But that is a big one. Like, again, I'll probably review this in a future video coming up very soon. I hope to FIRE in the next couple of years, but the question is, I need to think through, how do I pull that money out?
Right.
Because the vast majority of my money is in tax advantage accounts, which can break down to tax deferred or tax exempt. And this is like your Roth IRA, your 401k, 403b, 457, your HSA. These are all accounts that reduce your tax liability to some extent. But you can't withdraw a lot of that money out. There are some ways, like they talk about ways to withdraw it out, but for the most part,
they're locked in.
They're locked in to some degree. The easiest one to use that is less locked in is like a Roth IRA, because it's post-tax dollars. So technically, after 5 years, you can start pulling that money out without any penalty. The principal, not your earnings on it. Earnings you can't pull out to 59 and a half. But you can start pulling out earlier. But most people would say don't. Because you want it to grow tax-free and stuff. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe I need to have more of my investments in taxable brokerage accounts, because you can pull it out anytime you want.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
so you can have more liquidity. Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, essentially. Because if I want to actually retire or like have money to pull out, then I need to access that money in some way. So my question that I'm always thinking to myself is like, how much money do I need in a taxable account to, be financially independent? And then even with that,
good point. Yeah.
Do you have any perspectives on going the dividend route or the total return capital gains route? Like, do you ever do you pay attention to that at all?
I don't know if I pay attention to dividend amounts.
Okay.
Much. So.
And I mean, do you know why I ask?
Yeah.
So
for cash flow, or
yes, exactly. Yeah. So like people who focus on dividends, when you're older, you just want that cash flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the capital gains are. If you want the capital gains, you got to actually sell it to get the capital gains. If you keep I don't know if you want to keep selling a stock to pull money out versus just like leaving your capital invested and just taking out the dividends. So it's like two different strategies.
Yeah, and I know like one thing, maybe it's getting into the weeds a little bit, but like all dividends that earn currently in my portfolio are actually going back into investments.
Yeah.
So is that like a good?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Everyone talks about reinvesting dividends. It's just that some people have a focus on purely high dividend stocks, and those are like your typical value stocks where you get a large percentage, but it doesn't grow. It's like your utilities, your energy stocks.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Your Wells Fargo, AT&T, things like that. But they don't grow. Like the share price, I don't even know any of the share prices, might be, let's just using hypothetical numbers now, $10 a share.
Right.
It might go to like $11 a share next year. and maybe
it's not
12.
Like a small cap company or
or even like it could be a large cap like Apple, but Apple, Amazon, like those tech companies can grow huge amounts. So I think my impression right now is that being younger, focusing on total capital gains, growth, and then in the future, once like I've gained a lot, sell it, and then move to all dividend stocks for the higher cash flow.
I like that.
I don't know if that's a viable strategy. It's just my current thought. I haven't really thought much about that part yet.
I love that. I love the fact that sorry, I just had to pull this out. I love the fact that Brian actually has this sign on his desk. And then we're talking about personal finance. Like, I'm totally in with whatever you're saying right now. Like,
so, it is. How long have we been live streaming? 26 minutes. Are you hot? I feel like it's a little hot.
It's good. By the way, guys, I was telling Brian earlier, like I stepped into his home studio here, and like I've seen some of Brian's videos in the past, and they look super cool. But you have this like depth of field in the studio, and literally while I'm in here. It's so small. Your space looks really small. So I feel like there's some sort of I don't know where I'm going with this, but I feel like there's some sort of analogy there, like where your perception of something is different from actual reality, and so the perception of fire, for example, in right now for me, may actually be something completely different to what it actually is when I actually, get to that stage. So
let's talk a little bit about that, and let's acknowledge a couple of the comments, and we'll jump into it. So it says Tony says no regrets, just push forward.
Oh, he's probably talking about Bitcoin because I know.
Oh, and he says don't dwell on the past. Yeah, it's probably the Bitcoin.
Nice.
And Johnny says fire. All right. So what does that look like? What do you think a life of fire will look like for you? Like, let's say you reached fire tomorrow. What are you going to do? Like, how is your life going to change? Or what are you envisioning right now?
Like if it's literally tomorrow.
Yeah, literally tomorrow.
I probably wouldn't do anything different.
You wouldn't?
I'd have a coffee and that's about it. Like, I don't know. Like, seriously.
Would you continue working full time?
I would. Like I actually no question in my mind. I would not change a single thing. Which actually, that now you're asking me these hard questions, and now I'm like having to respond and reflect. I'm actually kind of happy about the answer, to be honest.
Okay.
Because in my sense, like when I was a starving student, right? By the way, I don't know if we got full context here, but like I tell everyone I'm a 2-time immigrant, and even before pharmacy, before IT, like before all of that, I actually moved to the U.S. as a international student. So I was born in Kenya. My family had to immigrate to the UK, London, England. That's kind of where I grew up, and then I moved from London to South Carolina in the U.S. to be an international student, and then of course, went through the process of meeting my other half, and really just kind of going through the naturalization citizenship sort of phase, and immigrating. But I have to say, like, I came over with very little resources. Maybe sort of this immigrant story, right? Probably, but I learned very quickly, that you don't really need much. You just need a lot of work. You need to put in a lot of work and a lot of hustle to really put food on the table, and even more so like good education and all that, right? And so I come to this context always where I never needed really much,
That's
but
good.
I think I think now having all of these things, to me it's immensely grateful to have these kind of, I have a great company I work for. Again, I have like a great portfolio in terms of personal finance. I have great community, friends, and fellow professionals, and life has given me so much, right? And so the career, professional community has given me so much as well. And so I always think about, if I was to do anything different today, what would that be? And I don't think I could say anything that would make me more happier than I would.
The way you currently do.
Yeah, I mean, except maybe traveling. I love traveling.
So would you travel more?
But this is the thing. We already travel, or prior to the pandemic, we already travel quite often. Doing 2 international trips every year, maybe 2 domestic trips as well. So there's immense travel involved, but I guess like it's not luxury travel, and it's not also like going camping in a tent, right? And like completely frugal travel. It's kind of in between, but it's very doable. It's very feasible, and still I would say pretty frugal in some extent. So
is FIRE more of a just purely peace of mind, financial independence then, if not much will change?
I think my perspective is the FI component more so than the entire like acronym.
Like I'll give you an example. So I love my job a lot. I would love to continue doing my job for a long time.
Especially in healthcare.
Yeah. But I have to say that there are other things on my mind that I've always considered too. So one example is like, I love pharmacy informatics. I love to teach. I love to do, but I also love research. So one idea would be to actually go back, actually leave my job, go pursue a PhD full time and do that. I think a PhD would give me the opportunity to like if you're financially independent at that point, then you can do whatever you want. PhD has always been on my mind to pursue that and continue in the field of pharmacy informatics, to do research, to teach. That's an idea.
I like that.
Or even traveling the world for, let's say, 6 months or for a year. You have the flexibility to do that. So that's one idea because like.
That's a great idea. No, I sorry to interrupt, but like I'm getting excited here. So, they in healthcare and just in general, like they teach you like, always ask what's the why behind what you want to do, and put it another way, like ask whys until you figure out the answer.
Oh yeah, the 5 whys. That's a tactic.
Yeah. So now thinking about like why do you really want to do that? Like I'm trying to dig into like why do you want to pursue a PhD? Is it the lifelong learning aspect? Is it like the just kind of curiosity's sake of kind of going through that journey? Like what's your why behind it? Because if you dig into that, like I think I've learned a lot more insights on what I want to do in that perspective. Because I'm thinking about like on the same parallel with travel, like why do you want to travel? Well, for me, it's actually to just learn about different cultures and to meet locals and to.
I just want Instagram pictures.
So that's a different why. That's great.
No, I mean that's not it. But I mean, there's other things I want. No, it's very similar to you. It's the cultures. You experience different cultures, the food. I think that as humans and individuals, we grow so much more when we are exposed to other things, other cultures, other food. There's a different type of growth that you learn being exposed to those things. So I think there's a lot of value in that in travel. And also, of course, Instagram is nice.
You can post that added bonus.
You like take pictures. Like I like taking pictures. But if you were asked about like the PhD, I think that you asked me that same question. I didn't say PhD back then. On a chat with I think Christy, David, and maybe Esan. I think a long time ago, and it's actually when I came up with this idea. So I'll tell you, it's the why behind PhD is because the problems that we have in healthcare, specifically healthcare informatics, is complex. I would say largely we have failed in our implementation of informatics in the US, for a variety of reasons. You can look at the HITECH Act and how fast it was implemented.
Right.
We have so many disparate systems that how do we fix that? And during my MPH, I took a class called Knowledge Engineering and Clinical Decision Support. And one of the things they taught me was about how do you format data in a way that is scalable and reusable. You're engineering the knowledge. You're basically designing the database of how everything can talk to each other, right? That went way over my head. Like it is so complex, and it just got me so fascinated. This is my master's.
Right.
I took 20 credits of informatics in my master's, and I was like, this is what I would love to do with my life. Even before this, I wanted to solve the problem of in healthcare informatics by doing YouTube.
Right.
But then I realized that I still don't know a lot.
Yeah.
So a PhD would give me the opportunity to do all those things. I can continue to teach people about informatics. I can learn myself.
That's great. Yeah.
And I can do research to inform how we should proceed in the future.
Right.
So that's the big why. And if you go another why back, it came from my MPH also. It's like the big picture goal is to improve the health of populations and reduce healthcare costs. I firmly believe that is done through, it can be done through technology. At least that's what I know. So then you break it down, then how do you do that? Then it's like creating YouTube videos to teach people, upskilling your own knowledge to learn about it. And that's kind of it.
I like that. No, that's cool. So it's funny because like maybe this in my mind I actually came across it through a notepad that I was reading that my sort of other half was like jotting down. So it's kind of insightful. But there's three kind of categories to the eventual fire that I just recently learned about, which is finding meaning in different types of work. And so the one is more of experiencing, spending to experience things like either it's travel, it's like what have you, like going to a nice restaurant or what have you, right? Like spending money on that. A lot of people do that already, like consumer-based kind of economy that we have here in the US. The second part is finding work that's meaningful in terms of like brings you joy into like we both are in informatics field in our pharmacy profession, and that certainly brings us a lot of meaning. And so finding work that produces that. And then I think the third part, which I think a lot of people don't do, and I found this kind of interesting, was finding a way to give back, social impact. And so for example, like we stood up the Pharmacy Informatics Academy solely because we were trying to find an outlet to give back to the community that given us so much. And that's kind of like, to me, that's kind of has been a source of continuous inspiration and fulfillment. And so how do you do more of that, right? It doesn't have to be educating others. It could be setting up or working with nonprofits, like giving in that space, to the homeless or to the underserved in healthcare or whatever it is, right? Working in free medical clinics that we used to do when we were students, right? Like things like that. So these are kind of just the three kind of definitions of buckets that I just recently came across, but I thought, that might add some inspiration for folks who maybe want to think about what to do when you are financially independent, and not necessarily retire early, but kind of retire from your current place of work, but find other work that's more fulfilling. So I still have to think about a lot of my whys, obviously, but it just I'd like to maybe hear what the community kind of thinks about ideas on what they want to do when they retire. And I love what you're doing here.
Maybe we'll see if like anyone in the chat, like if some of you guys in the chat, I don't know if you are, maybe this is the first time hearing about FIRE, or you're already doing FIRE. Like, two things. One is like, which FIRE are you pursuing if you are pursuing FIRE? And then two, what do you plan to do when you do FIRE? But getting back to that, I think, are you familiar with Chamath?
I am.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Through you, I think.
So. Oh, through me. Okay. Like, it's fascinating what he says. It's like, and maybe it goes like two parts. One part is like the Maslow hierarchy of needs. You know, like when you're a struggling student, all you can care about is like, you know, surviving. You know, at the bare minimum expenses. But once your bare minimum is met, and then your other things are met, you have house, food, shelter, support. Then you move on to the next thing. You build your own wealth. Now, once you have wealth, let's say financial independence, then you talk about helping other people. You know, that's why I think I resonate so much with Chamath. Is like, this guy was, I think, a billionaire by age 30, and his focus now isn't about making more money necessarily. It's about how do you take that money and reinvest it in a way that can help a lot of people. Social impact, large impact. And I think that type of work is so meaningful. So getting to that third category that you're talking about, how do you give back? And I used to say, like, giving back is like the most selfless thing you can do. It's like, it's such a nice feeling to be able to give.
I agree. And as long as you have your health, and you have your personal finance in order, like, to have the freedom, right? I think those are like the things that can take you to that point. I just want to share, like, just because I feel like this is something that happened in DC last night, and I thought it might be kind of cool to just talk about it. But I have to say, like, even the smallest things in life really bring you back to like that sort of Maslow's hierarchy of like, not having something makes you realize like the fact that you're so grateful for having it. And so I was actually just I think I was having ramen at this local place downtown, and super nice place, by the way. I haven't had ramen forever. I think it was like last time I had was in Tokyo, which is kind of cool. But I was having ramen. I opened up the chopsticks, wooden chopsticks, right? Usually, I don't have an issue with it. This time, apparently, I opened them up. I started handling them and immediately got a splinter in my finger. I was like, "Oh my god, I need a medical consult." I was like, "What the heck?" Like, I haven't had a splinter since I was a kid, right? And so, so I went back to the hotel, asked him for a sewing kit and some tweezers. I was just trying to take it out.
Was it really bad?
It kind of sucked. Like, for, I would say, a good like 5. I mean, it was on that finger, but essentially for a good like few hours. So like, it was a terrible experience. It almost ruined my day. Stupid little thing, like having like, it's hilarious. You guys don't like don't mind my rant here, but like literally I took it out, and like the very next thing after that was like, oh my god, this is like the best thing ever. Like, thank god I have no splinter on my finger. And that was my only focus at the time. And then the whole day after that was it was just such a positive day. Like, I felt so happy. I was like, no splinter on my finger. But it like, what I don't remember, right? Like so my main point is like, what I don't remember is, all the other stuff, like going to the ramen place. That was actually kind of cool. Like, I was my flight into DC. That was actually kind of cool, right? But none of that really mattered. It was the fact that I had this darn splinter out of my finger, and that's all that counted. And actually interesting, on just another note here, we were doing a LinkedIn Live with Dr. John Brott yesterday as well. So that was exciting. But we're talking about a lot of things. But there's one thing that stood out that he mentioned, and he's a urologist and you've got to get him on your show. But he's a urologist in Orlando Health. He does a lot of work with men's health as well, and he also sees patients who are on their deathbed, whether they're millionaires, billionaires, or just the average Joe, folks like us. And one thing he said that really resonated to me was, everyone, when they're at that stage, and you always think about legacy and impact. But when you're at that stage, all of his patients, the only thing that mattered most to them was, he was saying, was time with family and the relationships they had with their family or close friends, I suppose. And so that brought me to the point of like, yeah, all of these things are great. And, this journey of like building personal finance and wealth and, having these ways to impact the world and the community, really great things. But when you think about it from his level, like you think, well, that's another level I haven't thought about. And I don't think I will really, to be honest, I don't think I will really think about that in my equation for personal finance. But it just made me really, really deeply think about it. And I'm still trying to process it, to be honest.
Well, it's a very interesting maybe pivot here. When we talking about fire, like the main topic was about fire, but like there's three things I'll bring up. Yeah. The first thing is to your Splinter story. The first thing I'll say about that is like, I don't remember the name of how the quote went, but basically nothing really matters much
we're not going to
until you're sick. No, like basically like when you're decently well, you have food, shelter, financial support, all those kind of things. It's like cool. You don't really think too much about things.
Yeah.
But when you're sick,
that's a good point.
Everything, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Like your health is one of the most important things. And it actually brought me to thinking about something else I heard on a podcast where someone was like, usually like you prioritize certain things. Some people might prioritize career. Some people might prioritize their family. Some people might say friends. Some people might say significant other. And I was very surprised because this podcast guest said he prioritizes himself. I was like, what? This guy is selfish. But I'll tell you why. He said like, if I get sick, it doesn't matter if there's like, you can't spend time with your family. You can't spend time with your friends. You can't go go to work. It's the only thing that matters is your health. And between those two things, my mindset nowadays is what Warren Buffett said. The best investment you can make is in your own body. So I spend a lot of time making sure I eat well, I exercise, I sleep well, drink a lot of water, that kind of things. And then what was the another piece you were talking about, the story with the patients, and the most important thing was family. I think I might have mentioned this before, where I heard a podcast where they talked about the four components of an ideal life.
Okay.
And like it shouldn't all be focused on like, let's say, finance. It should be 4 parts: physical health, mental health, relationships, and then your career.
And the career,
as well. So I struggle with that too, is like, how do you balance all these things together? But you should actively be thinking about how you do all that.
By the way, you don't have splinters on all 4 fingers. That's why I was just like looking at your hands. I'm like, reminds me of that Splinter. But no, I agree completely, Brian. I think to your point, like working in healthcare, like as we have, it just kind of gives that additional perspective of like health is incredibly important for the longevity of your plan in the first place. So 100%. That's a really good point.
Anyways, it got a very interesting pivot there. It is 49 minutes into streaming. Maybe we can start wrapping this up. Thanks to a lot of people that has been tuning in and watching.
Those are great questions. I'm reading Brian's questions right now off his Word document.
We came up with some quick questions. This is all unplanned, by the way. We just had brunch and then we came back. Like, let's chat about fire.
Brian was like, let's do a video. What should we do a video about? Like, all right, let's talk about fire.
So, what are your thoughts? Like the whole thing all together. How's this chat?
I mean, I think I learned always learn a lot when we talk. I think that's one of the benefits of our friendship. I really, along with many of our other friends watching. But I think one thing is like there's never a firm to be more agile, I guess, in your plans. Because if you learn something, you can readily apply it to your current plan, and then you can still continue to develop. So my plan today, again, like I mentioned this to you earlier, but like my plan today, or my other half's plan today is maybe a little bit different from what it will be in another year or another few years. But the ability to make sure that we kind of course correct and adjust and fine tune it. And then also the other takeaway was like having really good health is incredibly important. And I still continue to work towards that goal. I am not a gym rat by any means. I'm not 100% really compliant on like how much sugar intake I have, like how like all the bad foods. I eat a muffin. Come on, like I eat a muffin once in a while, right? Things like that. So I have to cheat in life, a little bit, but at the same time, I've got to make sure I'm doing better with my health. So I'm continuously improving, I guess, is the main thought there. But I really appreciated the conversation. So.
Okay, cool. Well, we can wrap it up here. It was great chatting, Beju. I feel like every time we chat about some topic, it always trickles into a life conversation type thing about life in
while
general.
we're in your 700 square foot apartment. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Beju, you're gonna be here till Wednesday. Is that right?
I will probably be heading out Wednesday, and then
Okay. Well, hope you enjoy the rest of your time here. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Thank you for Beju for just like randomly jumping into this live stream with me and chatting about fire.
Absolutely, yeah. And then again, do epic stuff.
Do epic stuff. There you go. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.